I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, September the 17th, brought to you in part by Performance Livestock Analytics, a livestock technology company that simplifies data and analytics for the livestock industry. They help you with feeding accuracy, herd health, invoicing, closeouts, staying connected, and customer access. Always improving, a continuous process there. For more information, go to performancelivestocanalytics.com. Weaned or unweaned? And a lot of you guys are kind of confused. You know, a lot of people are bringing their calves straight to the sale barn unweaned because the market's been so good they don't want to wait and miss out on it. But your buyers are saying that they want them weaned. But then when you go to the sale, a lot of times the unweaned calves bring just as much as the weaned calves, and that can be very frustrating, and it has so much to do with quality. And if you're going to sell unweaned calves, you need to sell them freshly unweaned. I mean, as quick as you can. And I was talking with the guys at Beaver County Stockyards, and they like to get their feeder cattle into the sale barn over the weekend for their Tuesday sale, but not the unweaned calves. They want them to show up either late Monday or Tuesday morning so they're as fresh as they can be. Then the buyers can take them, get them processed, get them settled down, and get them going through the weaning process. But if you've got weaned calves, if the quality's not excellent on them, and I've never seen a time as the last year or two here where quality is making so much difference. We're seeing that the weight that can be put on these high quality cattle, I mean with genetics, just far surpasses some cattle that are just kind of a hodgepodge quality there. But it's also, you know, confusing for sellers to watch some of these big video sales that they have online and on the internet and online and on satellite and all that kind of thing, and on some of your cable channels there, because very few, if any, of those calves are weaned, and they're bringing these big prices, and you think, well, how come they can get by with it? And it does not send a very good signal into the industry when we see these big ranches that are supposed to be doing everything right and they're not weaning their calves. Well, they've got so many cattle, and they've got hundreds of calves, loads of calves, both steers and heifers. It's just almost impossible for them to wean them at the ranch, and they would most likely have to take them to a backgrounding facility to get those calves weaned. But they are putting shots in them. They're putting red nose, they're putting black leg, they're worming those calves, and they're giving them all the shots that they need to give them a good start on the weaning. And most of those calves are of high quality because a lot of those ranchers spend big money on their bulls, and so that's the difference on them. And those folks are getting a lot of calves at once. They would rather get more calves from a single source rather than having to put lots of different cattle together or calves together that's been exposed to different things, and then they get together and it's kind of a petri dish whenever they put them all together, and it causes for a lot of trouble whenever they start putting a bunch of calves from different places together and trying to get them weaned too, with a lot of different viruses surrounding that. But I agree, it is very confusing on what somebody should do. You don't want to miss out on the market, so you want to sell them right away as soon as you can get them off the cow. And I don't blame these guys for selling unweaned calves, but you need to have the quality, and you've got to have at least one round of full regimen of shots, but it'd be better if you had two. And if you're going to wean them, if you're not going to wean them but for 30 days, you might as well sell them unweaned, guys. Guys want them 45 days weaned at least, and the best scenario is weaned and turned back out. If you've had those calves weaned and then turned back out. Weaned standing around in a muddy lot doesn't entice anybody, but weaned and turned back out, if you can possibly do that, that's the best case scenario. But the board was more calm on Tuesday after seeing big gains on Monday. It kind of settled back down there. We didn't hear anything from the announcement that they'd seen a bird flu case in a Nebraska dairy. Nobody was really talking about that too much on Tuesday. Your boxed beef prices are plunging seasonally, but just like everything else, they're so volatile. Took a big hunk out of that wholesale beef market on Tuesday. And I tell you what, we're just getting into the fall, and we're just going to see more volatility coming in the fall, and very volatile. If you ask a sale barn guy what your calves are going to bring, unless you've got excellent quality with shots or a long time wean turned back out, they're not going to be able to tell you what those calves will bring, because they don't have any idea either. Talk about Charolais genetics. You can get the bigger frames, which make the bigger carcasses that the industry has suddenly turned to, and you can also discover the power of yield with Charolais, guys. For more information on Charolais genetics, go to poundsmatter.com. Let's talk about your board on Tuesday. October live cattle futures down $1.15 at 233.45. December down $1.12 at 235.15. Your back months were down 32 to down 80. September feeder cattle down 47 cents, which is nothing when they were up, 8.5 on Monday, but down 47 at 358.32. October was down 20 cents at 354.30. Your back months on feeder cattle down 85 to as much as down 210, and that was the farthest out traded month, and none of the closer ups were down that much. Talk about your grains. December corn up 6 1/4 cents a bushel at 429.5. November beans up 7 cents at 1049 3/4. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December up 9.5 cents a bushel at 523.5. I haven't seen much of any trade, negotiated trade, direct basis out of your 5 area feeding region. The only thing we've seen is one load of cattle out of Nebraska at 240. So, maybe they are going to tie in there and hang and try to get a little better price, or at least hold the market. A lot of folks were saying it's looking steady to lower, but I think we should take steady at the least. There's no reason they couldn't gain some more ground. There's not that many cattle on feed, especially in the southern plains. They are getting some backed up in the northern plains there, but we did have our market finder, Stockman's Livestock Exchange in Yankton, South Dakota, your biggest fed cattle auction in the nation. And that's where you go to get a price. There's true price discovery there through competitive bidding. They had 1,700 in overnight and 2,500 head of fed cattle, for your slaughter cattle auction there in Yankton. Conventional fed steers and heifers bring 236 to 241. And that was kind of uneven on the trend from $1 lower, $1.50 lower to $1 higher. The drug-free cattle, it was not well tested, and all the drug-free cattle that they had on offer actually went back on feed to another farmer feeder that was looking to fill in a little bit for his lot. Had quite a few non-implanted cattle. They sell from 244.5 to 250.5. And that was also uneven from 3.5 lower to $1 higher. And my friend Gary Marks that gives me this information to share with you said that the cattle as a whole were not as well finished as what they would like them to see, and not as well finished as usual. Even though up in that northern country there's supposed to be a lot of cattle that's been on feed for a long time. But box beef cutout values were sharply lower on Tuesday. Choice cuts 392.62 down 591. Selects down 563 at 373.17. Your slaughter through the first 2 days of the week, 231,000 cattle estimated slaughter. That was 7,000 more than last week, but 16,000 less than this point a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Val Grande, that's the Archibald brothers at Val Grande Ranch Feeders in Lodgepole, South Dakota. They want your balling calves. Let them wean and grow your balling calves right there. They've got a lot of expertise in that. They've got an excellent location located right between the western ranches and the Corn Belt. Be just right to stop them off there. for a couple months, put some weight on them, get the ball out of them, get them straightened up before you send them on to the finish yard. They've got excellent facilities and expertise in the business, guys. For more information, go to archbro, archbro.com for more information. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood, guys. Your real-time index based on an 800-pound cash auction steer at the conclusion of your Tuesday sales was sitting at 357.61, actually up 31 cents after falling off there for several sessions there, but it was up 31 cents, and that was a 7-day moving average. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index still sitting at 361.63. Couple of sales you don't want to forget about. Decorah Sales Commission is having their Customer Appreciation Day in Decorah, Iowa. And that's here on Wednesday, guys. They've got an excellent run of feeder cattle and all classes of feeder cattle there. And it'll be a big run. You can find them on DVAuction.com. Get up there in the upper Midwest and find you some good feeders to put in your farmer feedlot there. Also, Emporia Livestock Sales in Emporia, Kansas. Today's the day they're having their replacement video sale. So don't forget about that one too. And that's at 11 o'clock, guys. That's on DVAuction.com. Talk about your big sales on Tuesday. Of course, Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma had a big run. 6,300 head of feeder cattle. They sell their cows on Tuesday now. And the market was some lower, guys. Calves not as much lower like they trended last week. There was some support in them. They had some fancy unweaned calves in there, held the market on them. But as a whole, the offering was a little bit plainer. They didn't have as many of the fancy green grass yearlings as they have typically been having the last several weeks. They've had more of the lot backgrounded yearling feeders there. They sold good for what they were, but the market was lower overall. And Beaver was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard Livestock Equipment stick-out sale of the day. And you look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central and you see your best tested weights, and it was well tested throughout. They had 412 head of 4-weight steers, average 467 at 450.91. 754 head of the 5-weight steers, average 571 at 423.33. Your 6 and 7-weight cattle probably sold better as a whole than any other classes. There were 963 head of 6-weight steers, average 652 at 390.27. 984 head of the 7-weight steers, average 770 at 368.81. There were 338, and that would be light for them, of the 8-weight feeder steers, averaged 842 with a weighted average price of $343.50, and 231 head of the 9-weight feeder steers in Beaver, Oklahoma, averaged $942 at $333.83. Look at some of the heifers. There were 331 head of the 4-weight heifers, averaged $457 at $385.02. 576 head of the 5-weight heifers, averaged $553 at $356.31. 518 head of 6-weight heifers, averaged $661 at $355.06. And 392 head of 7-weight heifers, averaged $755 at $336.94. Another 246 head of 8-weight heifers, averaged $860 with a weighted average price of $317.81. Now, the highest individual quote that I saw come out of Beaver County Stockyards on Tuesday was 115 steers weighed 738 and bring 407 in the Oklahoma Panhandle, guys. Some other quotes from all around. How about Welch Stockyards? Tuesday was the first day they ever broadcasted on DV Auction, and they had an in-house video there. I told you about it a couple of sessions ago. They indeed sold those 375 PI negative steers. They were all black and weighed 685, and they deliver this week at 405, and the winning bid come over DVAuction.com, guys. A lot of good prices out there too. Maybe not as impressive as we've seen here in recent weeks, but it's turning fall, guys. But where you see them, they still bring big prices. I heard from them at 4 State Stockyards in Exeter, Missouri, another DVAuction broadcaster, and they just had they had a load of big steers come in. They sorted them up a little bit. Just had 23 steers, but they were green and gant, guys, and black. They weighed 830 pounds there in Exeter, Missouri, and bring 375. Big stick out price there. How about Creighton Livestock Market in Creighton, Nebraska? They sold 54 steers, weighed 1024 at 343.50. How about one way out east, guys? Tri-State Livestock Market in Virginia, Abington, Virginia. 61 head, 828 pound steers in Virginia, guys. Bring 360.50. Big time quote there. How about Lolly Brothers Livestock Market in Macon, Missouri? They sell 80 feeder heifers, weighed 677, and bring 377 and a quarter. Wow. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday in your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day come out of Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota. It was 202 head of 940 pound steers that bring 371. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.